Hello there folks, SeKo Starcraft bringing you some more top level replays from the WCS Korea. We have a best of 3 series. Actually might be a best of 5, I'll have to double check again. Anyways, there's lots of games that these guys are playing. It is Soulkey versus Innovation. Now this became a really popular matchup, I guess you could say, a very much sought after one to watch recently because Innovation was top, killing everything, and then he was almost at this like really impressive like triple crown where he went up for the finals of, I believe it was Code S, and at the same time for WCS Korea, and for Season 1. And Innovation and Soulkey went up a couple of times, and there's this great matchup where Soulkey was down like 0-3 in a series in a best of 7 and came back winning 4 games in a row to beat Innovation. And so that was there's this revived hope that there was going to be some people out there, particularly zerg, that were going to be able to go up against this Innovation guy that was just taking no prisoners. So we've got this series, and I remember it specifically as being very soon after those events, and that's why there's so much hype around it, and I'm so excited to be able to grab the replays for it. Both these players are going to go macro. So we see the money being built up here from Innovation. Oh yes, I just made myself a absolutely fantastic mojito, high ground command center, using gin. That's my preferred poison of choice, and I would suggest anybody who is a fan of mojitos and gin to try it. It is definitely worth your while. Soulkey will come in here and scout this a little bit just as the scout goes out for Innovation. Just going to be a little bit of a jerk. It's debatable whether or not keeping this drone here even makes any difference. I sometimes like keeping it out there just to be able to see if you can maybe pick off a worker, but it's not doing you any favors, particularly when you've got an overlord here to scout. Might as well be at home starting to gather some minerals or something. Though I am a very huge fan of the hatch block. You do generally have to go pool first on a hatch block, just so that way you can have some lings out to deal with the 1 or 2 marines that pop out quite early. I'm thinking about incorporating that into my build a little bit more, just because I've been playing so standard for a while, just trying to keep back playing these, you know, macro games, working on the mechanics with that. But every now and then you just want to go and win, to have some fun. Particularly after you get beat a couple of times, you really don't have the patience, for the most part, to sit there and macro heavy. And that's what I've been doing every now and then. I just played a couple of games where I went like a mass blue flame hellion all in. It was essentially that, and the three racks Terran versus Terran, which was super fun. And I'm hoping I'm probably going to cast that soon because I went up against a guy that was. He was a former Master League player, and I think he was in Platinum at the time. And I didn't realize that going into the game. I thought it looked like it was silver when you see the border around people's names when they're playing. I'm like, oh, he's silver layer. I'm going to roll over this dude. But anyways, he was in Platinum, and I ended up just essentially cheesing him out, which was so much fun. I'm sure he was completely unhappy with the fact that that had happened. See, these 2 lings would actually be able to do a little bit of poking here on this 1 marine. No, micro. Micro! Wow, that's about as close as you can get. Unload the marine. I wish I could control that. That'd be so funny. Moderately surprised we haven't seen another hatch pop down for Soulkey here. He is getting something like 10 drones at a time, so he is about to just macro up like a beast. Good vision right now from the zerg player. Looks like he might poke in with an overlord to see if there's anything funky. What he would really like to see is this command center. But Innovation will chase away that overlord. The reason why that's so important is I've been seeing a little bit more play from top Terrans against zerg, where they'll hide a couple of barracks, hide another factory, something like that, and then make it look like they're going to be macroing up like every Terran player usually does and turtling up, but instead you go for a really aggressive 2-base push, trying to intercept the zerg player while they're macroing up to this 3rd hatchery, and it's generally quite effective. Couple of queens to the front here from Soulkey. A little bit supply blocked, but it won't be for very much longer. Two hellions do see the timing of that third hatch, and that it is quite early. Having a third command center pretty much finished now, though, is going to allow him to, you know, keep fairly toe-to-toe. Yes. Upgrades are going to be popping down here pretty soon for the Zerg player. We haven't had any engineering bays yet from the Terran. Focusing more on getting out those units, but I wouldn't be too surprised now that this next gas is going down to see the double engineering bays pop up here fairly soon. Just so that way he doesn't fall too far behind in the upgrades. He's got a reactor coming down on the factory. That's probably just going to get moved over into a... I was going to say a starport here. So there's the engineering base. But I don't see a starport just yet. Might be just producing a lot of widow mines. Now Soulkey's been very, very good at using his lings and his ling speed to be able to deny hellions on the map. I've seen a lot of games where he can get just really great surrounds and hold back that kind of aggression. 6 hellions out here are pretty tough to deal with, but you see him trying to build up a few more lings, waiting for the Terran player to maybe try a run by, and getting himself a little bit overcommitted. Zerglings spread all over the place. Super nice touch. I'm seeing this out of a lot more Zerg players now. It's not like there's going to be a lot of Terrans wasting scans or running around with ravens to detect this. And you can see if we look at the vision of the Zerg player of what that really delivers him out of the front. Delivers a block on that base. He knows about this command center. In fact, he's blocking it still. And he's got this great vision arc all around the outside of the map. And just as I was saying that, he even burrows a couple more. So he has got himself in a great spot to know exactly when something's coming at him. So he can macro up without worry. He's not almost all the drones he needs to be. It's not even the 10-minute mark. He might produce a little bit more. But I'm sure he's quite comfortable with that number right now. Small little run by of Zerglings. I don't think they got too much done. No, they didn't even get a worker. Terran player right now is just finishing up his primary macro. I mean, as the game goes on, he'll get a bit more. But he's got all those barracks now priming down. We do have the spire now, right at about the 10-minute mark. Lots more Zerglings out on the map. Once again, Soulkey knows exactly where his opponent is, but Innovation doesn't have that same understanding. As I was talking about, that good surround. This army from the Terran player is too far away. That is a lot of Zerglings, but the position is pretty bad. Bit of a forced stim there, a little unfortunate. Innovation does have a supply lead, but he's kind of stuck at home for the time being. He doesn't really have that mobility or that really massive army count that's going to help him out. He is starting to get down at least one missile turret here. That Marine's being a bit of a chump. I'm interested to see, there isn't a huge bank for the Zerg player. He's got enough for about 8 mutas when that spire finishes. 4th base, about halfway done. Got his gas on 3 bases. Oh, yes. So he had an itchy eye. It was great. 7, 9 mutas on the way right now. And though the mutas are so critical for this matchup, if you're going to go with the Ling Baneling against the Bio, snipe off the medivacs, snipe off the widow mines, and use your overwhelming numbers to be able to put pressure on. Now Soulkey has been very good at doing run-bys and just exploitation attacks is what I would call them. Waiting for the opponent to get out of position and then going for a bit of a counter. Baneling speed, we finished pretty quick. Those mutas are out on the map and they're ready to head across. The Terran is putting no pressure on, and usually by this stage of the game, the Terran is knocking on the front door of the Zerg, and these mutas are strictly defensive. But now we're in a position where the Zerg player can actually go and put the pressure on the Terran. And this is difficult because it's really hard to defend against a giant mutaflock unless you have an overwhelming amount of missile turrets ready. So as we see, Innovation with a supply lead is pushing out onto the map now. Pretty good Baneling hits. We see the mutas are coming back to try and help with this. What Innovation doesn't want to have happen is that creep get too close towards his base where the reinforcement times for the Zerg player are going to be too fast. We're going to see if we get a bit of a baneling run by there. If you can sneak it into the mineral line, you can end up getting a lot of damage done. Yes, good split on the widow mines. He does got to get his drilling claws down though. I mean, he needs to get a tech lab on a factory to be able to do that, but it would help him out a lot. Good use of those marauders, soaking up a lot of those hits from the banelings. You can see that's why they're out in front. Soulkey is trying to snipe them down, but if you don't have great baneling control, what you might end up doing is running headlong into the marauders instead of the marines, which is what you really want to hit. We can see the baneling sneak. Oh! That was a lot of supply drop very quickly. Huge widow mine hits for the Terran player. Lost almost all of his widow mines in doing so. With these medivacs here, assuming the Terran player is going to trade pretty well, looks like just barely the Zerg player is going to hold on here. With this next rally of Zerglings out. These marauders, let's see if he focuses down this hatch in time. Is he going to push it? This is really messy. It's not even really that coordinated at all by either player. I hate being in this position as a Zerg player. You think you've got the numbers, and then somehow the Terran just muscles through you. Stims up, lots of medivacs. Look at this medivac count, that's sick. 11 medivacs in here. He's almost got more medivacs than units on the ground. He's only got 6 marines to deal with all of these mutas, but it's still, he's still trading better. More reinforcements just streaming across. I'm sure Innovation smells blood at this point, but I think he'd be better off to just pull back, there we go, and regroup with the rest of his reinforcements. He does not want to risk losing a lot of these medivacs. And even taking out this creep, there we go, would be a very good move for him as well. Behind this, he is moving out of the command center. It is blocked. You see all the yellow dots all over the map. That's the vision of Soulkey and how he's really going to be able to control those expansions well. I think that's a great time. Ooh, a couple of good hits there from the widow mines. This is a great time. Ooh, I thought he was going to get that in time too. That's the crappy thing, is sometimes those widow mine shots just still end up firing. So it was good work by Innovation. Killed the 4th base, knocked out a lot of creep, a lot of mutas. Soulkey has managed to get himself back into a pretty good spot, and if these banelings can sneak in, a lot of times you see Terrans walled up right here with supply depots just to stop this very thing from happening. He might be able to roll in and get a lot of damage off on this mineral line if he's not careful. PF is going to be going up. You can see a run around here with the Zerglings. Planetary will be done in a couple seconds. There's the banelings. No pull from Innovation. "31 workers killed." It's decent. I'd consider that decent. Planetary's just finishing up, but he'll still lose a few workers in the meantime. Kind of unfortunate. He is making workers 4 at a time right now. So if we look at the units, it's still 56 workers. So Innovation's not in a ton of trouble. Starting to get up more macro facilities. He's got to deal with these idle SCVs. But what can you do when you're playing at this level? You're all over the place with the multitasking. 3-3 upgrades for Terran ground. 2-2. 3-3 is not on the way yet. I don't know if... Big use of banelings, not great hits. I want to see if the layer tech is finished. Yeah, well, layer tech's finished. I'm sorry, if Hive is, and it is not. It's not on the way. I don't even know if there's an infestation pit. There isn't. So Soulkey's been a little bit pressed here. He's not been able to get up to the tech levels that I think he really wanted to at this point. We're almost at the 20-minute mark, and he hasn't even got his infestation pit down. He already used the boost on his medivac, so it'll be a second before they can run away. But he does manage to save most of them. Gets that widow mine before he can shoot. Pretty big supply lead right now for Soulkey, though. And once again, all these lings still just sitting out here giving complete vision as to what's happening with the Terran player. Looks like he wants to go into the main, get some damage in. Handful of missile turrets, but they will get targeted down real fast. This is such a crappy feeling as a Terran player. You're like, oh wow, you have like 40 mutas just wreaking havoc in my base, and I can't do anything about that. We see the opportunity right now for Soulkey running around the map. What he'll want to do is get a bunch of banelings. Oh, good hits on the medivacs. He'll want to see if he can get another maybe baneling run by. Hit down the command center. Almost a bit of a trap here on these mutas, but there's enough mutas that they could just fight their way out. I don't think Soulkey's too worried. Holy crap, how did innovation all of a sudden max out again? The macro beast. In range? Nope. Essentially, the glaive worms will hit that, even though the vision isn't there. Wants to try and stop the banelings. Pretty decent hits, not amazing, but a little bit of damage. That macro. Let's just look at all of the... Only 8 barracks, actually. I thought there was more for him to just, like, punch out a maxed army that fast. Look at that crap. That's unbelievable. Anywho, we still have... Where does that come out to? 16, 24. Well, just about 30 mutas. You should be able to even just, like, brute down that command center, but unfortunately, there's a push on the other side right now. All these banelings are still being morphed. We'll see what kind of control he has in dealing with this. There is a small group of marines going up there to try to deal with the mutas. Pretty good splits. These banelings are not super coordinated. They're getting targeted down real fast. Innovation still has a supply lead, more command centers in production. And that base goes down. It's very, very weird to see Soulkey not have, with all the control he had for so long, not just dominating the map with more bases. Cancels that base before it can really get too badly hurt. This Mutaflock would do really good to try and hit some of these medivacs. Let's see if he runs. He's ahead of his detection. I was going to say, it's a bit of a minefield over here. So you have to be very careful about running into there too soon. Blah. Pretty good hit. You know, it's pretty good. Couple of baneling landmines, you never know. Baneling landmines can win games just by themselves. Already another maxed out for innovation. These lings are still here from the very beginning of the game. For a couple of supply, that is such a great investment. Once again, there's almost no defense at home for the Terran against this. I think Soulkey's doing a great job with what he has. He's kept his Mutaflock alive this entire time. There are some Marines in the base. Those are SCVs. Those are Marines. They're in a medevac. What the heck? That was a mistake by innovation there. He accidentally clicked on the medevac, and that was really funny. Anyway, so we look at the base-wise, like innovation has never stopped focusing on his expansions. He's had to cancel a couple, and you know, he's lost a couple, but he keeps building more. And he's get those PFs down, he's going to be in a great spot. When we look at the Zerg, I mean, he's a Zerg player, and he's really only ever been on the 3 bases constantly. This is unbelievably oversaturated and almost done. This is done. This is winding down. This will be done in a matter of seconds. And it's just this one he's long distance mining at. Soulkey might be maxed out, but he's not in a great long-term position. No bank, no bases. Pretty big hits on those mutas. They are quite busted up. Innovation does want to chase down this flock. It is very important that he tries to deal... Ooh, medevac snipes. Much. This is kind of funny, actually. Soulkey is actually a supply block too, that's hilarious. Ultralisk Caverns finally on the way. The ultra late game, ultra attack. Doing the damage he can right now. Well, I mean, these mutas can just sit in this corner forever. Well, this... couple of good widowmine hits there. Does lift that up before it can die. Mutas do sneak by. That's so funny. Oh, that Overlord's still there as well. See, the upgrade's almost all finished, so it's not really that big of a deal to try and kill upgrades. Killing supply depots would be fairly worthwhile, though. Another big run by here. Nothing there to really kill. Let's look at the income tab. How are these guys doing? Pretty equal, all things considered. Innovation has been on some funky spots. This base was taken out for a while. That one's fully mining. This one really isn't. I'm surprised. How's the income that equal? Particularly with the gas income from the Zerg is amazing. Going by, you saw that Soulkey did try and snipe down some of the reactors here. Yeah, changelings. For the win. We're just like you guys. These aren't the Zergs you're looking for. Move along. Pretty big Baneling hits there. The Widowmines don't hit the Banelings like they needed to, but it looks like he just hangs on. Soulkey still got a supply lead, but he can't risk losing this Mutaflock. He's doing a pretty good job. Infestors, oh, and Ultras. Money mix. Money mix. Run away. Oh, you got no boost. Well, there goes that momentum again. But at least the Terran player has bases. Got a base in your face. Gotta be careful about them Widowmines. Good snipes on those medivacs. Expensive. That's not what Innovation wants to be spending money on right now. He's gonna have to sit back home and turtle up a while, try to deflect attacks until he gets himself back closer to maxed out. He is producing a lot of units at a time, but his bank is gone, even though his income is fairly decent. No detection with his army. He does go right around the missile turrets, though. Sorry, the Widowmines, though. I have no idea how he knew to do that, but he's got map hacks. It's the only explanation. This base has been like the whipping boy this entire game. It hasn't gone down, it's just been getting beaten up and slapped around. Still pretty good Mutaflock, not quite on 2 pages. But we see that the Zerg player still really is in pumping up those bases. I would expect another hatch. This is mined out, mined out, mined out. If we look at the units, he's got almost 70 drones on one base. That's why I'd love to see some nukes. We need nukes, people. Supply block for Soulkey. Oh man. Man, I almost done my drink. Talk about a long game. This was a big stiff drink. It's gonna make the rest of the games that much more exciting though. Okay, Fungals wants to get his Ultralisks right on top of this army. Let's see the splits here. No splits at all. He's just going to set up a wall of meat and hope that it works. Oh, the mutas stayed out of that fight, though. Where were the mutas that whole time? He lost almost all of his Ultralisks. And his mutas, all that DPS of these +2 mutas, wasn't even a part of that. Wat in hell? The Ultras are all done. That's the meat shield you need. And a GG. That's unfortunate. That wasn't... Well, it was game deciding one way. If those mutas actually were a part of... Look at that. Look at that. That's ridiculous. 2 big things Soulkey, I think, did wrong in that. 1, where's all of his bases? There weren't a lot of Terran drops that game. If there were drops everywhere sniping bases, I would understand. But there weren't. The second is in that attack with all those ultras pushing in. If you had the mutas in there to deal that damage and hit the medivacs, you normalize again. It wouldn't have ended the game. Innovation's in a great spot, but that was not super great way to end it. Anywho, game 1 goes to Innovation over Soulkey. Game 2 coming right at you.